Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage. Guess what? We're still working on this 65 Mustang. So stick with me through the intro and I'll be back. And alright guys, our cowl has finally come in. I've got her prepped up over there. So this video is going to be installing at least the lower cowl, if not the upper cowl too, in the same video. So I've been working along. Let me flip it around. I'll show you where I'm at. And Daisy is watching the Torino outside. But remember from one of our earlier videos, I got the flange and weld through primer prepped. I got our new cowl. I went ahead and drilled all my plug weld holes I need to drill all the way around the flange where it contacts. So I'm at the point where I need to load the wiper motor and the vent back on it. I'm working on cleaning that stuff up right now. But I went ahead and scuffed this cowl down, sprayed it with some of that Transtar sealer. Just to kind of help with any kind of future, condensation type rust issues that it might have inside the car. I went in here, I painted the back side of the dash with some black after I treated it with Osfo. I got this wiring harness all loose, cut loose. Waiting to see if he wants to go ahead and just put a new harness in it because it's not in the best of shape. It's got some cut hacky stuff and some butt connectors here and there, all that nasty stuff. So pretty much I got to load the back of this cowl. I'm going to go ahead and put the vent back on it and wipers like I said. Just make it easier on me so I ain't got to lay under the dash and do it. That stuff's in pretty okay shape. The vent's pretty rough. I went there and wire brushed the crap out of it. Treated it with some Osfo. It's currently finishing drying now. I'm just going to spray a little paint on it and hope for the best. Let's try to save him some money. It's up under the dash, you can't see it. So as long as I kill what rust is in it, we shouldn't have no issues. So I got the wiper stuff set up here. I wire brushed as much of the, red paint and crap off of it as I could. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time in it. Once again, it's up under the dash. You can't see it. I got to save him some money somewhere. Because, as you know, this is a very intensive project. So let me get busy. I'll be back here in a few. Well, it's a little while later, and Daisy's been over here inspecting. Got the wiper linkage back installed. That stuff went there pretty well. I reused the old leather type gaskets that were under it. Cleaned them up and soaked them in some stuff to soften them up. Cleaned up the vent assembly as best as it would do. Sealed it back to the cowl with a little urethane. Mostly because I'm just going to try to reuse it. And it's up under the dash. And if he decides this bothers him, he can just change the cap on it. But the assembly works still. Cleaned up pretty decent. So I'll clean this part up when I paint the dash underneath. But just be easier on me. Just go ahead and put this stuff on there. And then I'll, deal with it as needed. So let me get this cowl back in here. We can start fitting it up for a final fit up. And alright, I got the cowl set back down in there. Got it clamped up here at the front where I need it to sit. And what you're going to run into with some of these aftermarket parts, you're going to have a gap like over here that's bigger than over there. And a lot of that's where it's not sitting flat here. We're going to have to fit this stuff as we go. So what I like to do, I'll start in the middle. I'll work my way down one side, up the other, and then where it fits up to this brace. And I'll start on the other side, over, and then up. More flexible in the center, so it's easier to work from the center out, and then just fit the sides independently. So hopefully this will all go smooth. So let's start welding this thing in here and see where we get. Weld, 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 weld. On a side note, them horseshoe vice grips like that, that's what I call them. They work great for doing things like this because they actually have, little stands that go around, wrap around. So, I'll continue welding on. And I want to show you a helpful tip on helping the cowl drain. So let me flip it around. So guys, as you can see, I'm already working on this flange here. But a helpful tip to help this thing drain, if you can see, these have an upward lip right here. And what I done on the other side, I just took a hammer and worked this where it was a literal trough right here, kind of downward and out. Kind of show you on the other side. It will help with drainage. As you can see, I brought that lip down flush right there and kind of gave it its own low point exit right there. Won't matter in this area because this is where your drain's at on the upper. So I just worked this down in here, create a low spot and angle towards the outside. May not help a whole lot, but it sure ain't gonna hurt. And alright guys, got all them dressed up. Now we need to test fit the upper cowl and just make sure everything's going to fit normally. Then we can come up in here and start finishing this up. And surprisingly, the fit on this thing is pretty darn good. I mean, not bad. Not bad at all. And as you can see where I dolly that down, it should give us a better water drainage there. So, looks like our upper's going to fit pretty good. Actually, kind of impressed. Compared to the rest of the junk we've messed with on this car. It even fits pretty good over here. Can't really ask for much more than that. It's been a little bit right here, but that's easy enough to deal with. Sweet. Can't ask for no better than that. Not at all. So, at this point, we need to get a few things I want to address in this lower cowl taken care of. We need to get our spot weld holes drilled in the upper cowl. Get all the EPDM ground off the flange. Weld through primer sprayed. But pretty impressed with the fit, just to be honest. That's something I couldn't say on any other piece of metal on this car. The cowl actually fit pretty decent. Who'd thunk it? And before I get too deep in this prep here, the underside of this upper cowl where these are stamped are like razor blades, guys. They're sharp. You'd hear, you can't really hear the sharpness, but it's like a razor blade. So what I like to do, I'll take a flat disc like that one that's wore out that I've been using. I'll just lightly buzz over this stuff because paint will not stick to a super sharp edge and not stay. So by doing this, it's going to help prevent rust on the vents themselves. And we will be painting the bottom of this cowl before we put it on. Same with the inside of the lower cowl. And we'll be doing some other stuff in here too. I'm going to get into here in a few minutes. But just a little helpful tip there. If you're going to do this on your own car, save you some trouble down the road with paint peeling up between these grates. I got all the EPDM cleaned off the bottom of the upper cowl, and I got some weld through primer sprayed on the lower cowl. So I'm going to flip it around. We'll talk about what we're going to do to prep the lower cowl for the upper cowl, and then I'll get into prepping the upper some more. All right, we got our weld through primer sprayed on the seam. I put it pretty heavy. I usually like to leave it a little light, but considering this is a high rust area, I went ahead and put it pretty heavy. So one big thing on these, you can see your top hats are spot weld done. You have a seam around here that can let water seep and sit in this seam. There's a couple different things you can do. What I like to do on these is I will scuff this cowl with probably some 120 grit paper in here. I'm going to scuff the inside of this down. I'm going to take some urethane seam sealer. I'm going to put it around these hats and I'm going to brush it out a pretty good little amount. That way this area will always be rubberized and protected. Then I'm going to let that dry out overnight, and then we'll come back in here. We'll paint this, and then we'll start getting the top on it. And overnight for me means mere seconds for you, as usual. But we're not going to jump into that quite yet. I'm going to let this weld through primer tack dry up where I can start scuffing around inside this inner cowl. We need to seal around the wiper stalks also. I'm going to use urethane for that. Anything I put in here, I have the intentions of never taking it out again or having an issue with it. That's why I'm going to use what I'm going to use. A lot of people don't put anything. I've seen people POR 15 them. I've seen, all kinds of different things. Up to people silicone them. And don't ever use silicone on an automotive application on the body. But still a lot of work to do. A little time to do it. So, not getting anything done sitting here talking. So, let me get busy. And alright, I got a little primer sprayed on it there. It's tacked up good. I'm going to go ahead and start putting my seam sealer around my hats. I'm going to seal around the wiper pivots up there also. Well, I went ahead and got that seam sealer on there. Just smoothed it out just a little bit around it. What you don't want is any gaps in between this hat, and you don't want any raised lips where leaves or anything get stuck on it. Up here, I went a little excessive over the tops of the bolts. I run around a wiper pivot bolts. A little extra there is just going to ensure that if it does get in the rain, that none of this rain's going to seep through and get inside your car. This is preventive maintenance for the future. I went ahead and run a bead around that inner lip too on both hats, just to, prevent stuff from happening later. So hopefully that will do something and help out later on down the road. But once that seam sealer dries enough, I can paint it. I'm going to tape this off right here. We're going to paint the inside of this cowl, and we go further with that. A little extra work here at this point will save you issues down the road if you're going to keep a car. A lot of people just blown some black spray paint in there and called it good. A lot of people left the EPDM coating, called it good. And it probably would be for, multiple years. But you're just inviting that rust back because EPDM coating does absorb moisture through it somehow. I've seen plenty of cases of stuff where you sand it off and there's rust under it. So, just trying to prevent something from happening in the future. For somebody else, hopefully. So, big thing is now when you get this upper cowl prepped, I need to go ahead and decide where I'm drilling my spot weld holes for it. I'm probably going to stagger some of them from the bottom. I've got the bottom spanned out every 1 inch. So I'm probably going to do the top every 1.25 inches. Something like that. So it'll just help make it a stronger assembly in the end, hopefully. And like I said, prevent problems later down the road. Well, it's a little while later. I got all my weld seams taped up, all my holes drilled in my upper cowl. It's scuffed down. Seam sealer is good and dry. I've got that scuffed down. I'm going to spray some of this black epoxy sealer on it, and that should be good. So, I got our epoxy over here. Got it mixed up. We should be ready to spray here in just a few minutes. Oh no, seemed like a good idea to spray epoxy in there, so that's what I've done. So I laid the epoxy real thick in the bottom, especially around the hats and around the base where, water or dirt could sit and stand. Hopefully that will give us a good, long-lasting, make this cowl never a problem again solution. The top of it, I just kind of put a couple of light coats on it, just enough to make sure everything's covered good. Didn't really lay it on there mega thick because that's going to be condensational rust if it does. So let me flip it around and show it to you a little better, and we'll talk about where we go from there. So it laid out pretty decent. It's about 20 minutes later, and like I said, I taped all the flanges up. I went in here and sprayed it. So hopefully that will prevent any future issues from being an issue. So, hopefully that'll be a good solution for this issue. So if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button. Comment down below if there's anything you got questions about. And if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. It is absolutely free. And about 88% of my viewers are not subscribers. If you subscribe for free and watch these videos, comment down below. It helps YouTube pick this stuff up on the algorithm. And lets me help him out on these labor hours on this monsters project. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys. So, back to the video. And it's the next day. So, our epoxy is fully cured out. Got our cowl mopped up. So let's get this thing welded in here. But before I start doing that, I need to notate one thing. You may have to open the wiper holes up just a slight amount to be able to line all your holes up for your cowl braces and stuff, and still have some clearance around them. 65s have a bezel and seal right here. This car was missing them, but you want to make sure you can be able to put that stuff on. And all right, we're fitted all the way across, all the way up to this point. Don't be afraid to go in here and have to straighten some of these flanges out. As you see, I run a little small bead right here like I did here. Just helps tie this all into this roof structure. The most important seam is going to be right here along your windshield and dash base. You're going to have spot welds on this side and this side. This needs to maintain a nice smooth curve all the way across. So you need to keep in mind while you're clamping it, I'm probably going to switch to a regular pair of vice grips and clamp it in between each weld. On this all the way down, I'm going to do the dash to cowl panel seam first, and then I'll come back here and do the cowl to the lower cowl and A-pillar seam next. So basically, guys, tons of welding, tons of fitting, and like I said before, I'm pretty impressed with this cowl, just to be honest. It fits fairly decent. Only real slight hammer work needed around the edges. So let me get on this other flange and then I'll be back. Well, about 45 minutes of welding later, I've got all our flanges straightened up, all in there. I did build up some weld here in this corner to help this transition into the roof, and from the pinch weld here clean. Run a little bead all the way down. And yes, I know stuff's not pretty. That's what happens when you deal with weld through primer. But if you don't, it'll rot out right between these flanges again. It'll be just a mess like it was before. So let me get to grinding, and I'll be back here in just a few minutes. I'm not going to make y'all watch that. It's pretty much going to be like I've been grinding and welding through this whole video. So I'll be right back. And all right, it's a little while later. These are cleaned up. These are our cowled apron braces. They're going to go in here something like this. So this is going to be the next thing we need to install. Got both of them ready to go back on the car. They're kind of rough and ugly, but weld through primered on the bottom. They go in here something like this. I'm going to have to do some tapping around once I get them secured to the cowl. Get them to match back up with the apron, just because these things were bent up so badly and such poor shape. But at least they're reusable after, with a little hammer and dolly work. So let's get them things on there. Well, this side's installed. I went ahead and out here where you can't see it, I went ahead and just run a little small bead. Not gonna hurt nothing. Definitely make it stiffer and stronger. You can hear the other side over there rattling, so we should be good and tied together. Well, it's been a little while. I've got quite a bit done in the background. Good scuff down and sprayed some Transtar primer, because I'm going to go in here and I'm going to seam seal around the edges of this cowl, try to make it look nicer, and we should be about done with it. And Daisy's up there sleeping. Not going to let nothing disturb her. So, like I said, I went in here with some Transtar primer. I scuffed this cowl all the way down with some 180 grit. Blew that on there. Once again, that Transtar primer is a primer / sealer. So it's good stuff, guys, for small areas, especially when you go back and sand most of it off in the end anyway. So I got everything sprayed with that. So I can go in here and I'm going to seam seal some of these areas. I'm going to seam seal this up here. I'm going to seam seal it across as thin as I can in these areas, all the way around. And what that'll do, it'll just end up giving it a nicer finish in the end, especially here in the under hood areas where you're going to see things. So making pretty decent progress, I think, at this point. So let me get back to it. So got the cowl seam sealed. Tried to go extremely sparingly in the under hood areas. Over here, this is just going to help any drainage, keep from getting in between your seams and rotting it out. When you do this, you want to make sure you don't leave a lip in here with cowl. And some of you see me fill in that little pinhole in that piece right there with it. I absolutely did. It's not the right way to do it, but in this scenario, it's not going to hurt anything. Same thing over here. Done whole flange up this side, just where you can see or not see in this scenario, and try to keep it clean across the firewall. So that said, guys, when you're doing seam sealer like this, you want to think about how the water's going to travel and trying to minimize any kind of water intrusion potentials. So factory globbed it on the outsides, used it sparingly under the hood, so that's what I done. A little better product than what they used back then, because most stuff they used back in the 60s was a tar based seam sealer. This is a urethane seam sealer, so it should be in there for many, many years to come. So guys, I guess that's about it for this video. At the stage the cowl is installed, I need to start moving forward on something else, and this video is probably getting a little on the longer side. So if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button, share this video with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. It is 100% free and helps me knock some labor time off his bill on this poor hack job of a car. Then I think we're finally past that point of finding surprises. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys. So make sure you comment down below, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching. And Daisy's up there asleep.